This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to order Jamie Glazov's new critically acclaimed jihadist psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hi, this is Barak Lurie, and this is the Barak Lurie Moment brought to you by the Glazov Gang. Today, we're going to talk about war. Now, when you think about war, you think about sacrifice, right? We sacrifice people's lives for the purpose of saving civilization or your way of life. That's the key of it. Now, they tell us that we are in this war against this COVID-19 or the coronavirus, and how important it is for all of us to participate in this war, to sacrifice, as it were. The problem is that we are now not just sacrificing lives for the sake of civilization, but we are, in fact, sacrificing civilization for the sake of lives. That's the key distinction. And as I argue in recent articles, we are doing the opposite of war. War is about the sacrifice of lives. War is understanding that we are trying to preserve something. And in this case, we are trying to preserve our way of life. It is our democracy. It is our civilization at the end of the day. Now, there are many expressions that go along with this to kind of buttress my point. One of them, of course, is the famous saying from Winston Churchill, "Never have so many owed so much to so few." Likewise, you have Patrick Henry, who famously said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And then one of my favorite expressions, I forget who said it, but it's attributed to many, which is that I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. These are all meaningful phrases, but they talk about sacrifice. They imply sacrifice. And if you don't accept that, if you don't understand that, then you don't understand what war is for. Now, you hear governors and other leaders, mayors in particular, who talk about if all that we are doing is helpful to save even just one life, then it will all have been worth it. And then you hear people quoting the Talmud to the effect of, "He who saves one life saves the entire world," which in some sense is true. But you also have to keep it in perspective. If you're saving one life and doing so means losing many other lives, then perhaps your balance is not really there. Your perspective is certainly not there. And that's what I fear going on right now with this coronavirus war that we are in. It is doublespeak. It is the opposite of war here. You see, no one has really asked the simple question, at what cost are we trying to save these 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, maybe even 200,000 lives? At what cost shall we prosecute this war? We know one thing, that there will be a tremendous amount of suicides. We do know there's going to be a lot more hunger. There's going to be a lot more lives ruined. There'll be a lot more child abuse. There'll be a lot more spousal abuse. There'll be more alcoholism. And it's not just in this country. It's also true for other countries who depend and trade entirely with the United States. As my friend Alan Estrin from the David Prager, the Dennis Prager show, puts it so well. There's that worker in Bangladesh who makes jeans solely to the American market. And now that's no longer there for him. Other people in other countries live not just paycheck to paycheck. They live hand to mouth on not even a weekly basis, not even a daily basis, but on an hourly basis. And you take that away, they're already living on the margin as it is. Then all of a sudden everything collapses in their lives. So if you only look at America, that's good and well. But even then we'll have a lot more poverty as a result of all this. You have to think about the impact, but nobody's asking the question. Instead, you get these tripe this tripe and trite phrases from mayors like governors like Andrew Cuomo saying that one life will be enough, so that we do all of this just for the sake of that one life. Now, the numbers, you've heard this before yourself. 35,000 people die every year in car accidents. 80,000 die from the flu every year. Anywhere between 30 and $80,000, I should be more specific. And of course, there are many other a number of factors that kill people, tens of thousands of people every year, including airplane crashes and such. But somehow this coronavirus is very different. And I want to study why that is the case. We're all supposed to be sheltering our homes. We're all supposed to be avoiding going to businesses. We're all supposed to be doing only takeout, wearing masks, and all the things that we all know that we have to do. But at what cost? One of the wonderful things about our market system is it allows and contemplates consequences that we don't know. We embrace the notion of unintended consequences. There's an expression, let 1,000 flowers bloom. And that means that things can happen. But generally speaking, if you embrace that, you can do great things with the economy. You can do great things with capitalism. But if you think that you can control the future by shuttering everyone in place and not having any economy whatsoever, you've got another thing coming. It's a big problem. In many ways, in wartime, one of the most effective techniques that an army can effectuate is a siege. You've heard of the siege of Leningrad, for example. In that siege, the people of Leningrad or Stalingrad were so they were sheltered. They ultimately had no access whatsoever to the outside world because the German army had surrounded them, not allowing anything in. And of course, they ended up starving, hunger, all those things that you've heard about, and it's a horrific story. But in this case, aren't we, in effect, imposing a siege upon ourselves? That's why I call it being under siege. I call it the siege of Americograd. That's what it is. But we're doing it to ourselves. It's a scary time to think about how people just don't think about the consequences, but they need to. Consequences are everything. And to think that we'll look back on this and then say that this is no big deal, that this was, this was just a matter of stock prices and such. No, this will be about lives. This will be about trillions of dollars lost in revenues, that our way of life itself will be changed if we continue on with this madness. And it is madness. One of the things that I want to explore is, why is it happening? Why are we doing this now instead of, let's say, just having people go into their homes or rather those who are more vulnerable, those who are more prone to catch this and maybe even die from this, and quarantining those people. I mean, they're already being quarantined anyway, so what's the point of quarantining people who are not likely to die from this, right? So why not just do that? And then, of course, have an aggressive campaign to wash hands, have an aggressive campaign to make sure that people are a little bit more socially distant from each other. I'm fine with that. Maybe even have a campaign to say, look, no more than 100 people gatherings. That's the ideal, at least. So we minimize things. But we don't have to shut down everything. And that's where the madness lies. And the thing I want to explore is why we are doing this. Because it has never happened before, that we would ruin this economy for the sake of saving thousands of lives. We didn't do it with the SARS virus, which was far more deadly, and it was fairly contagious too. The point is that this is very contagious, but not as deadly. And yet we've chosen this path. And the why, to me, is because of godlessness. Godlessness has been the single greatest force of change in America and for that matter, in Western civilization, in the past 20, 30, 40 years. The number of people who now declare themselves to be nones, meaning N-O-N-E-S, is now the majority of people in America. Very few people have children. It's something like 1.8 children per couple in America today. It's not a good trend. And what that means is that for every child that they do have, and for far fewer and fewer as it is, for every child they do have, that child's life takes on an incredible significance. You can't afford to lose that one child because he's your only child, let's say. But put that aside. That's not the way we ever looked at dealing with the war. With a war, we understood that there is a notion of sacrifice, and you might even have to die for what you value. But it's not so anymore. And how could it be so? In a civilization today, especially in America, where we feel that America is nothing but a racist country that was founded in slavery, for that matter, that treated the Native Americans so brutally, that otherwise had Jim Crow laws, and is only about capitalism, and it's designed to destroy the poor and the middle class and so forth. Well, then what's to die for? There is nothing that they see worthy of dying for. And that, to me, explains why we are engaging in this particular kind of war. Godlessness is the single greatest destructive force, far worse than any virus can throw at us. We are in trouble if we do not understand that godlessness is the key force that has led us to the reaction that we now are having vis-a-vis this virus. Because it begs the question, what will happen the next time we have a virus? What will happen next time we have any sort of conflict? Do we shut down the entire country for the sake of preserving lives that might otherwise be lost? If we applied the same rationale that we're now engaging in, let's say during World War II, and we had the threat that the Nazis would not only take over all of Europe, but were on their way to America because they had gotten so strong, what would be our response? To say, look, we don't want to die. So therefore, let's let the Nazis come in and we'll save a lot of lives. We won't preserve our way of life. We may speak German for the rest of eternity, or for the 1,000-year Reich that Adolf Hitler envisioned, but at least we'll be living. That would be their attitude. And we can't have that attitude. If we do develop this attitude now, then why not with any flu or anything similar to this virus next year and the year after that? Is this the first of a series of economic shutdowns going forward? And the worst part of it is that it's considered to be an option, that this is an approach, a tactic to dealing with a crisis in the first place. It shouldn't be. This should be the last resort, and yet it was the first resort. And I put it to you that the reason why it became the first resort was because of godlessness. Because we have lost our way. We have no sense of purpose of America, of Western civilization. There is nothing worth dying for. So all that's left is just our lives themselves. Nothing more and nothing less. It is a shame. We need to preserve our culture and our way of life of capitalism, of Americanism, and Western civilization, all put together. But it means nothing without God. And hence people are more than happy to destroy the economy only because they have no sense of any future. Only with God are we willing to sacrifice our lives. That is we have a sense that there's something greater than us. But without God, there is no sense of anything greater than us. It is all random. There's nothing worth pursuing. And so, spare me my life, damn the economy, damn civilization. That is the attitude that we seem to have developed, and very few people have questioned it. It's very disturbing, and it's something we need to fight among ourselves. I'm Barak Lurie. Thanks so much for watching this. And if you do like this, then I ask that you please subscribe to the Jamie Glazov Gang and go to the by going to jamieglazov.com, and make sure that you are subscribed to Jamie Glazov Gang YouTube channel. Thank you.